Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the republic for which it stands. Okay, let's get started. First thing is approving the agenda. Does anyone have any additions, any changes, any questions on the agenda? If not, I guess I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Seconded by Pat Scripture. All in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, the agenda is approved. So number one on the list and number one in our hearts, I'm sure, is Glenn.
Yep,
You're starting off, okay.
leading it off. In your package, you'll find the 2013 CIP landscape improvements. We're proposing, city staff and SCH is proposing to reduce the retainage for D&J landscaping. They've completed everything that's on the schedule for the work to be done for the plantings. So at this point, we would just proposing to reduce the retainage from 10% down to 2%. There's some warranty issues that have to be dealt with in spring, and I'm sure because of plants that probably won't make the winter, that's all going to be played out in spring. But at this point, the 2% retainage would be plenty to take care of anything that would need to be done.
Okay. Any questions for Glenn Regine?
No, I have one for Mike. That leftover 2%. If D&J finishes all of their required work, say in early spring, when would you then cut them a check for whatever they've got coming?
When the engineer finally recommends approval and acceptance of the project.
So that could be done anytime after they've completed it?
Well, typically, it would be just like our street project. When it's done, it's met the conditions, that they've done the punch list items and those kind of things, then he recommends it for approval.
I was just curious because usually we see these around towards the end of the year, so I was kind of wondering, well, does it take us that long to pay them back?
The reason in this one is that there were certain forms and information and things that weren't provided to Chris where we could have done this earlier this fall.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else? If not, I guess I'll look for a motion to approve reducing the retainage from 10 to 2%.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion by Dave Bruzek, second by Sean Ryan. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Okay, passes 4-0. Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you.
Mike, I assume you're taking the next item, the resolution for adopting the city budget for 2015?
Patty said she's been here now, so I guess I have to take
Who,
that.
Patty?
Yeah.
Oh, she kills me.
So you have in front of you tonight the compilation of the budget work that staff and the council has been doing over the months of September, October, November, with the public hearing in December. We have a proposed total 2015 budget at $21.56 million. I have as an additional handout tonight a recommendation to make a slight modification in the general fund budget and the special revenue budget. The changes are actually in the materials that you have, but I wanted to provide some further delineation clarification that as Patty and I have been working and she's had contact with the auditors, it all has to do with doing a better way of laying out our chart tax abatement that has been in the general fund for 2 years. We're going to be going into our third year. As we talked at the beginning, for those that have been here through the budget process, I wasn't excited about having to put it in the general fund per se to start with, and we finally have had enough discussions with the auditors and with the way that we've got it proposed to be laid out. They're okay with us putting it in the special revenue fund, and what I wanted to provide to you and to show you what's happening by doing that, essentially the general fund budget, which is currently at $4.33 million, would drop down to $4.20 million, and that would shift $126,850 in the property taxes on the revenue side and the same amount in the unallocated developers payment portion of the expense budget. So basically they wipe each other out. And those revenues and expenditures get moved into the special revenue fund under two new accounts that would be created. within the special revenue fund, one showing the 5-year abatement from 2013 to 17, the second one, which is starting for the first time in 2015, going to 2024, that's the 10-year abatement. Each of those are accounted for with revenues from the city property tax, the Scott County property tax, and the school property tax. And so what it does is that it's basically revenues in, revenues out for each one of them. But you can see the combined total that I'm moving from the general fund down there totals the 126,850. So there's nothing going on there. And then it does show the school and the county pieces into that for a much better picture than what you saw just in the general fund. So it doesn't collectively increase or decrease the budget at all. It just moves them from the general fund budget down into the special revenue budget.
So then we'll have a separate P and L every month, or how are you
There
going to?
are multiple accounts within the special revenue
Oh,
fund.
okay.
And as Patty went through those in her review, and I think it was at the second budget meeting we had, first part of November is my recollection, is that you'll see this kind of detail in the future. And in fact, for years 4 and 5, 16 and 17, and then when you look at all of the remaining 9 years under the chart tax abatement, it would be exactly the same for every year. Nothing would change. That these are the required contributions, and so as long as money comes in and they go out, no one would see any difference going forward until they're completed. The last year being 2017 on the 5-year and 2024 on the second one. So it was an attempt to just provide greater budgetary detail within the overall city budget for clarification purposes.
So basically, it's reducing our revenues and reducing our expenses by the same amount
In the general fund.
in the general fund, which should give us a cleaner picture of what really is in the general fund.
Yeah, it really, I wasn't excited about being in there, but in talking with the auditor the first time around a couple years ago, that's where they wanted us to put it, and I don't know what's changed, but Patty, through additional ongoing discussions, we just thought it would be better to provide greater detail of this nature.
Okay? Any questions? Go ahead.
Like, for example, what other kinds of things are in the special revenue budget? So I can, because I didn't bring all my stuff, so I can just look.
Special revenue.
You have your budget, Sean?
I brought the general fund and the debt service, but I didn't bring all of the other remaining budgets.
Just think of anything else.
Kind of drawing a blank that.
I'm just trying to picture it more.
But
in my-
if you take the $127,000 off the $274,000 budget, it was only about a $100,000 budget, so it's not a lot of items, but I'm trying to remember. It's a non-major fund, so they're minor items that I can certainly email you those tomorrow. I just don't have them all in front of me right now, the special revenue.
Okay, I could probably look it up when I get home, too. Okay.
So it's just the fund location where we're making this modification. With that change, obviously, you see a reduction in the general fund budget for 2015, and so compared to the 14 budget, it's a reduction of just under 44,000 or 1% is what it amounts to versus the slight increase that was there to begin with. And so, and for any questions beyond that.
I don't see it.
Special revenue, one of the ones that stands out, I think, would have been the, under the program we have with the, in the law enforcement arena where we have the funds that come back from Scott County on the prosecution funds, that we have a fund set up for kind of the criminal justice program with fines or monies that come back from penalties that Jim is able to use to help pay for advertising, promotional items. He can purchase equipment out of that. So those revenues come in, can only be specially used for that. I think that's also where we have some of the park fund monies, the sidewalk, the the siren fund monies, all of those ones that had special, if you remember, they were special revenues that could only be used for certain specific
Yep,
purposes.
as soon as you said the sirens, I
It's-
knew. Okay. Thank you.
And that's what it kind of means. It's special revenues that are dedicated for certain particular uses and can only be used for that use. So we thought this just provides a better, cleaner overview of that whole individual process.
Anything in here?
Next time I'll make sure Patty comes to this meeting.
Any other questions? If there's no other questions for Mike, again, I want to thank Mike and Patty and all the department heads for a good job of putting the budgets together again this year. You guys are getting it down to a science and making it easier for us, which is always good. If there's no other further questions, I guess I'll make a motion to approve the city budget for 2015. I got a second by Sean Ryan. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Okay, passes 4-0. Next, Mike, we're going to talk about the property tax levy.
Included in your packet is the information on the proposed property tax levy for 2015. It's comprised of that portion totaling $2.661 million in the general fund, the $64,000 added to the current tax abatement for 2013-17 is we had that at 64,669, adding to that for the first year of the 10-year abatement at 62,181 for the tax abatement. Debt service fund is down a little over $3,000, no change in the EDA levy, so the aggregate combined levy is up about $59,000, primarily all due to the first year of the new 10-year chart tax abatement. As you can see from a historical standpoint that we've done fairly well, that this is the fourth consecutive year that the levy in the general fund has remained the same. Debt service has been relatively flat, that we work to try to keep that at or slightly under the $1 million level. The EDA level is in its fifth year at $50,000. No longer have the market value library levy, and the chart tax abatement at the $126,850 for a total levy of $3.824 million, up by a little over $59,000 or 1.6%. If you happen to, if we didn't have the economic development project for the chart tax abatement, you'd actually see more of a reduction in the levy over the last several years other than that. But that was the project funding that the city used as part of its inducement or incentive to get chart to build and expand that building that eventually hopefully will add another 80 employees in aggregate. So give you a couple different ways to look at the levy and the information and where we're at. With the levy being what it is, we and our tax base up for 2015, we should see our levy drop from a little over 70.34 down to 64.5. Also put in a new exhibit you maybe haven't seen before is a breakdown that when somebody asks you where does the city's portion of their tax dollar go, on the very last page, try to give you a general idea of the makeup of whatever number it is, that basically for every dollar spent, about 70 cents on the dollar goes to general fund, and you can see how that's further broken down. 26 cents on the dollar for debt service, 3% for the 3 cents for the chart tax abatement, and 1 cent for the economic development. So hopefully it gives you a general idea of understanding where the tax dollar goes.
And I see you added that article, or part of the article that was in the Star and Tribune, which,
Yeah, I cut out the portion on Scott County that
we looked.
I couldn't fit everybody else, but wanted at least to share the piece on Scott County.
which we did look very favorable in, which was nice to see. Any questions? No? Okay, I guess I'll look for a motion to approve the tax levy.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion by Dave Brusick, seconded by Pat Scripture. Any further discussion? All in favor of adopting the 2015 tax levy, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Okay, passes 4-0. Good job. Ken, are you taking the feast?
I will.
Well, then it's your show.
All right. As we do every year this time, last meeting of the year, we have proposed fee schedule changes from all the departments in the city. And once again, this year, we have a few changes that we're looking to propose for you to take a look at here tonight. I only included some major changes on the memo that I drafted for you, but if you took a look through the whole fee schedule, there's actually a few more in there than that. So to cover the major changes, first off, regarding my own department, we did propose increased zoning fees for items like conditional use permit applications, plats, variances, etc. Generally speaking, we're proposing a $50 increase for each one of those applications. I had looked at other cities' fees in the areas, and we were quite a bit lower than a number of them. We have not made any particular proposed changes to any of those zoning fees since 2008. And even at that time, we had raised them about $50. And pretty much the only reason I'm even looking at raising the fee is publishing costs have gone up for our public notices that we have to put in the paper. And this should cover that, just generally $50 more is all I'm looking for there on any of those applications. Moving along, for building permit fees, a couple of kind of minor changes more for ease of particular permits that we do see quite a number of. First one was for basement finishes. Currently, we have a number of different fees based on the number of rooms you're finishing. And that's always a common question is, is a utility room a room? Is my bathroom a room? Is, this room, is that a room? So what we're looking at to do instead is just set one flat fee for all the basement finishes, which again they're all pretty similar in their fees anyway, but getting rid of the 4 different fees and replacing it with just one simple $130 plus state surcharge fee in place of that. Second one, similarly, we used to have, currently do have a fee for 2 different sizes of decks, one for over 144 square feet, one for under 144 square feet. They're all the same number of inspections. There's footings and there's a framing. So rather than confuse the issue there, just proposing one fee for all of those. Increased planning review fees, again, that's actually specific to my time looking at all the building permits. I think it's about 4 years ago we actually put in place a $40 site plan review on commercial structure review, along with new dwelling review, and then a $10 on minor things like decks and other additions where you have to check setbacks. And looking to increase those, we actually put in a bit more time than the money we were taking in on those reviews for the staff allotment. And specifically the big change that I'm looking at for here is specific to commercial structures. $40 wasn't cutting it for a O'Reilly plan review, for example. And going to what a lot of other communities do is basically a per hour fee for the review time from planning review standpoint. There's a lot of things. I basically run through a full staff report, almost similar to a conditional use permit, et cetera, where I review everything from parking to landscaping to setbacks to building design, et cetera. That can take, 4 hours or more on some of these larger projects. So that was the change for that. Moving along, a couple more fees. One I did not have listed in here, you'll see some proposed fee changes for daily use of softball and baseball fields, and these fees had been the same price as simply renting a shelter in the city. The only issue is that we were actually giving people a shelter and a baseball field or softball field for the same price, and discussed at the park board meeting last week, actually, that there should be a premium. You're getting basically two items for one, particularly at Memorial Park for the softball fields, and basically adding the $25 fee to each of those to account for the fact that you're getting two facilities instead of one. So that was one of the changes, and the other one was in regards to tournament fees. Basically plussed all those up by $15 to account for the fact that you do get a shelter, and you're paying for the more intense use of the fields. There's more upkeep, et cetera, following those tournament events. So those are the changes that were reviewed by the park board last week. And then finally, you had taken a look at water-based rates being increased by $5 per month across the board when Bruce did his presentation at the last council meeting. And then electric rates are proposed to increase, basically just a KWH increase as recommended by the Utility Commission. So those are the major changes, and I think enough of us are here to answer any other questions that you might have about any of the other changes in here.
Did the park board unanimously approve?
It was unanimous for that recommendation, correct.
Any questions for Ken over these proposed changes? Now, these will go in effect January 1st?
January 1 is when these would go into effect until further amended.
I know I brought this up last year too, but the rooms at City Hall, do we charge non-residents to use the rooms?
I actually do not know the answer to that particularly myself.
Oh,
I think the answer to your question is no, that there really are no room fees, that it's first come, first served based on the general uses, that, the council and city uses take priority, and then it's kind of first come, first serve. And then we've avoided specifically somebody trying to rent out the rooms to do all-day interrogatories or political events of those nature. But no, there is not a fee structure for non-residents unless you'd like us to develop something.
I personally would, because it's taxpayer dollars, and why are we letting somebody that doesn't live here use the rooms? There are costs involved, cleaning, heat, electricity, water.
Just so you know that typically what would be done in that case, depending on whether it's as we've encountered in other areas, is that sometimes they will find somebody that is a city resident, even though it may be from the outside. And so that's the challenge that we run into in that basis as to whether they're resident or non-resident in that respect.
Well,
But we
I
certainly could.
see that as a problem, but
We could certainly give you a summary of what the utilization is and some recommended rates if that's what, this could be amended at any time going forward in the future. But if you'd like us at the end of the year here, we can do a recap for the year as to what our general utilization is and whether they're resident or non-resident or what's the makeup.
What are some of the
Agreed.
groups right now, Mike? I mean,
We get Boy Scouts, Girl
Yeah, I was gonna
Scouts,
say
the
Boy Scouts, Girl
Toastmasters,
Scouts.
the Czech,
Check Club.
yeah.
the Czech
Czech
Club,
Club.
yeah. Those are the only ones I've really seen.
Cedar
but-
Lake is used.
Cedar Lake's probably the only one that probably doesn't have a resident on there.
No, but they're moving.
Oh, are they?
I mean, that would be your example. like-
Yeah. So that's fine.
Well, they did for their next meeting. I don't know if that's going to be
Just haven't told you.
continuous.
It's your call.
Yeah. I guess maybe we should just do a summation,
Okay.
just to see the groups, and if we feel that they're all civic groups, like Boy Scouts and that stuff, it might be a moot point, type thing. But just for summation effect, I think that would be great, as long as it doesn't take Mary Jo too long to do.
It would be over on the other side.
But
Oh.
if we institute a
dead.
rate, though, we can't be arbitrary. I mean, and I don't want to you know, I have a tough time charging the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts to
Yeah, I know that's
hold
what
a meeting there.
got said last time.
So, I mean, I'd be against it. I think taxpayer dollars, if they can get a citizen on the board, their taxes are paying for that building anyways. They should be able to utilize it for a few hours. I just hate to see the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts have to come up with a $50, $200.
So like, what's the thinking behind using the shelters at the park then? Why are we charging for that? That's when I think about that, the park, the shelters, I just don't see why we'd charge for one and not the other, really.
Well, you're reserving that whole area, though. You're kind of preventing other people from using it. The Boy Scouts could be using the upstairs, and then the downstairs conference room could be, whether it's Cedar Lake Sanitary or any number of, another group down there. So I think the fee makes sense at a park if you're reserving an entire pavilion for a birthday party or family reunion or something. Makes sense that you'd pay a fee in that situation.
Well, I think also, a lot of times to me at least, at City Hall, the use of, basically it's got to be heated, it's got to be, cleaned no matter what. If no one used it, you're still going to pay that service. Where I think, at a shelter, and when someone uses a shelter and things like that, we have to do extra cleaning. You're going to, if they don't pick up the garbage normally on Wednesday, but if there was a big event, you're going to have to send someone over there. So I think there's additional cost when those events are being held at the park in a shelter, where I don't see any additional cost at City Hall except for probably electricity, because you're still going to clean those rooms every day if no one uses them per our contract with Service Master. That's what my thing is you're not creating any additional cost at City Hall, but you are going to be creating additional cost to do additional cleaning or something beyond your normal daily routine at a shelter. Because if you never clean the shelter except on Wednesdays, well, if they had an event over the weekend, you're going to have to send extra people over there to empty the garbage and things like that, because you're not going to want to sit there for 2 days when they normally do their job. That would be my rationale difference, is you're creating additional cost to maybe clean the bathrooms earlier than normal planned things, so then you got to send someone over there because they had an event to make sure the bathrooms are clean and do this and that stuff, and maybe they're not even at that park that day. So that would be my logic and the reason why you want to charge. But so
I don't know, when I worked at the city, it was, and people had events, that there was more work with cleaning and stuff too. They messier.
yeah,
So,
at City Hall.
yeah.
Oh. But that should all be covered under your cleaning contract, I would assume. They don't charge us extra if we have someone in there, or if we don't. So that I guess that without knowing, that would be my rationale as why they decided to
Yeah.
initiate those fees at one time. But if we'd be, Mike, if you could just put that on there just to get a summation, that'd be great. Any other questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the official city fee schedule as printed,
For 2015?
2015, yeah.
Okay, a motion by Dave Brusick, second by Sean Ryan. Any other further questions? Yes?
One item that you didn't ask that's not on there is, for the first time in the last 6 years, there is no fee increase for wastewater. 2015.
Or,
That is a good point.
Or stormwater.
oh, yes. That should be noted. Being that we have had the significant increases over the last few years. So yes, that should be noted, but thank you for bringing that up, Mike. So I have a motion by Dave Brusick and a second by Sean Ryan. If there's no further discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Okay. Passes 4-0. Next, approval of the health insurance.
We've received notice late this fall on our health insurance for 2015. Good news, first time in quite a while. The proposed rates for 2015 are due to go down by 2.5% for 15 on both the single and the family monthly cost. I provided additional information for the council on the cost share as has been revised over the 4 previous years, what it's at, the VIBA contribution as it's been revised downward in the last 4 years, the deductible, and then what the rate contribution is for both the employer and the employee on the monthly insurance.
Now, that's got to be a first. Don't see that very often, that
Good news.
the health insurance rates have gone down. Very good.
Is that a healthy group?
It was. We had a good year this last year. It's been trending that way. That I think last year there was no increase that I recall, but this year it's a 2.5% reduction. And change we made a number of years ago in our deductible, and depending upon good loss history, it's been working in our favorable over the last few years.
Are we in a pool?
Yes.
Okay. So the pool must have done well.
They rate us both individually and within the pool, and you know, the challenge where you think you should get better than just a 2.5 is that likewise in the years when it's due to go up as well, that you know, that pool tempers both the ups and downs in the process, and so
Yes.
we're pleased with the 2.5% reduction.
Good. Any questions? Okay. I guess I'll make a motion to approve the 2015 health insurance plan.
Second?
Second by Pat Scripture. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Okay, passes 4-0. Next on the agenda, and I see Ms. Jurek in the crowd. Due to her recent election to the council, and again, congratulations. She is basically resigning from the park board, effective, I would assume, it looks like you're effective December 15th as of today. So I think what we need to do, 2 things. First, I would like to thank Amy personally and on behalf of the city of New Prague for your 9 years of service to the park board. I've not served on the park board, but I'm sure Dave can attest of your hard work and to that board. And the second thing, I think what we need to do is put in motions to get out there that we need to fill that vacancy, to fill out Amy's term, which is what, Mike, till 2018, May of 2018. So,
Correct.
So I guess I'll make a motion to put the motion in, advertise for the park board replacement effective immediately.
Second.
I got a second by Dave Brusick. Any other questions, comments? I guess all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Good. Thanks again, Amy.
We will have a certificate of appreciation to present at the next council meeting, which will be her swearing in.
Yes, and then that'll give you an opportunity to get a photo op too, you know, I think. Right, Patrick? There you go. Jim, is he doing okay? Okay. Okay. I know Mike sent out an email and to the council people to kind of give me some suggestions of what you kind of which boards and commissions you would like to serve on, which we will be making an appointment at our first meeting in December. I know David has already sent me yours, so I guess if Pat, you could get me your first, second, and third choices, you know, and Amy also, if you could send me those, and so that once I get them all, then I'll, you know, might have to communicate, and we'll see, try to work it out and try to accommodate everyone as best we can. So I know everyone, I think everyone needs to serve on 2 boards and commissions. And one thing, if there's one board or commission you can't make, like Pat, you don't like the EDA because of the early morning, or Amy, if you can't make an EDA early morning, doesn't work for your work schedule, and that kind of let me know too. And like, I think the community center one meets at noon, right?
Yeah.
So just if you could just kind of give me any kind of restrictions that, so that I don't put you on there and say, oh, I can't make it type of thing. So, okay, that'd be great. Thank you. Next, Glenn, it's got to be you.
Yes, sir. In your packet, we got the agreement with Service Masters for cleaning City Hall, the police department, and the library. The proposal from Service Masters is exactly what they had given us some months ago. The only thing that we do have in question yet is if we have to pay sales tax on the service. According to the Minnesota Revenue Sales and Use Tax Division, we don't have to. Service Masters is telling us that we do. So we just have to iron that out. So staff is recommending approval of the agreement tonight with us figuring out the sales tax and then letting you know how that turns out. But Service Masters is, we did some calling of references and called 2 different businesses, and they had nothing but praise to say for them. So we're hoping that Service Masters will give us a really good job cleaning and kind of just raise the bar a little bit as far as keeping things clean around City Hall, the library, and the police department.
And Jim, you're comfortable with their bond and everything, so? Okay. Yeah.
So how do they clean the library on Friday when they're
We're
closed?
not open on Friday.
They're closed on Friday, but it says on here, services at the library will be provided Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
They'll have a key to get in.
Oh, okay.
They'll have access to City Hall through our touchpads and then a key for the library.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I kind of looked at the list of things they're going to do. And one of the things I always know, although we don't have our council meetings there anymore, but the chairs are so dirty, it's like they need to be vacuumed once in a while.
We just got new chairs in the council chambers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they look pretty good. You have to stop up there.
Yeah.
Well, maybe if they
along with
could
the conference room.
vacuum the new ones once in a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, I didn't see it on the list, so.
Okay, any other questions? If not, I guess I'll make a motion to approve the Service Master Cleaning Services agreement with the stipulation that clarification on the sales tax issue.
Correct.
Second.
And second by Dave Brusick. Any other questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Okay, passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mike, I think you're going to take this one on regarding the school board and...
Ken and I had a meeting with the superintendent and the finance officer of the school, Sandy Lynn, last Wednesday as a follow-up or a prelude to their meeting on Thursday evening before the school board, where the Facilities Task Force made a presentation on their plan. I think I provided that to all of you, so you should have copies of what that information was. But as a follow-up, the school has submitted to you a letter asking for the council's decision, preferably prior to January 26th, on participating in a joint partnership on a conceptual cost-sharing agreement on an indoor swimming pool, should they include that and should that ultimately get approved. Their decision on the 26th, as we've been led to believe, is somewhat contingent upon the council's decision there. We have no budget no information specifically at this point in time as far as details or agreement language or anything of that nature to provide to you or recommend to you, but since we got it, I wanted to get it in your hands to give you some thought. We've got some time for discussion on January 6th and 20th to evaluate and discuss this further, but they're looking for some level of participation, at least in the conversation that Ken and I were part of, that generally would go along the lines of something where the operating revenues minus expenditures, should there be a deficit in covering the cost of that indoor pool facility, that they're looking for some joint cost sharing on approximately a 50-50 basis on whatever that deficit might be. You know, I'd certainly want to take a look at it, knowing that in most cases, unless they do otherwise, with depreciation being added in as an operating expense, that it's not a cash expense. If it's not a cash expense, is that we take a look at that very similar to what we have in the golf operation, so that we're not having to contribute on a cost-sharing basis where there isn't an actual cash outlay out of pocket for that. They have to do it from an accounting standpoint, but from a financing standpoint, but we really don't have anything to give you. Just wanted to make sure we shared the letter with you. You know, if want us to get together with a representative from the council and the park board or something, that we can certainly, you know, take a look at this further, but we need to have some decision by the end of January to provide to them that they'd like to have in their hands when they consider the action on the 26th. That's where they're going to make a decision on which of the options that they'll select, what it's going to include, and then it's my understanding in February they'll make a decision on what the language of that question is going to be, and or the possibility of calling the election for May of next year.
So I guess what I would suggest for the next meeting, if we could kind of get what our current cost of our pool is, because that's something we're going to have to look at too in conjunction of this. You know, we're going to have to make a decision on our outdoor pool. Also because obviously we know that there's a lot of repairs if we keep it in the same area. Also, Ken, is there some way to know the number of people who use the pool? Like, obviously they have lessons there, they have lap swimming there, and then they have open.
They have not kept a track of average daily attendance, you know, paid or seasonal. They did for 1 year. A few years back ago, they had an intern that actually was keeping track of that. So I do have those figures. I do not have anything other than the swim lessons that are, you know, tracked very closely through community ed. So hard to tell that daily paid or seasonal use or season pass use.
Right. And I don't know if that's as important in this decision, but I think that would be something that we'd want to look at when we evaluate the current outdoor pool, because obviously if they do pass the bond and they do have an indoor swimming pool, that probably swimming lessons are going to be at the new pool facility, which would take X number of people or revenue away from swimming pool, even though it's under community ed, it really isn't costing us anything.
But they also, Ken, in our conversation, they indicated apparently a willingness to continue with the outdoor pool arrangement as well, that just because we would do this doesn't mean that they wouldn't contribute or cost share on the outdoor pool. But again, not knowing how all of that's going to end up working and with limited information, is that you know, they're looking for that conceptual outline of what we're willing to do. And so we're hoping we can gather more data and information on you know, the size of that facility, estimated operating costs in that, and see you know, with memberships being sold or uses, with the idea that it would become more of a public facility than if it was just purely school with no membership type things, as to what that might entail and what are our best guesstimates, or what does the architect think on that a little bit. So hopefully we're going to be able to gather more information. We just didn't have it by the time that we got this. Basically, our meeting was Wednesday, they met Thursday night, and I received this letter Friday morning. Due to the timeline that we're up against, is I wanted to make sure I got it in your hands, so at least you're aware of what that request is from the school district.
Yeah. I think the more information we get from them, and then also more information we can collect from our side, you know, if you know, the cost of the existing pool, and obviously we know, if that's going to be a decision, an ongoing thing, we obviously know that there's going to take significant money to kind of bring that up to code rather than keep bandaging it,
Yeah,
so.
because we have it all in that visioning.
Right.
It's in here.
We'll consolidate it.
Yeah.
In the budget, too.
Well, I don't know when,
Like we have like 25,000 in there this year.
but I think even if
Yeah.
they go to the referendum in May, when they're talking,
Well, you've got design, and then you've
they're
got
not, it won't be
constructions.
done until 2016 at the earliest, or 17.
I'm guessing if you go into design, if it gets approved in May, that it's going to take the rest of the year to do a lot of the design work, and then you're talking construction in 16, so that it might be ready in 17, unless, Ken, there was something different that you talked about under the committee process.
Nope, that'd probably be about it.
Yeah, so, even though there's nothing in the budget, there's not going to be anything in the 2015 budget.
No, I just mean that what we
Oh,
spent
right.
kind of since 2011.
Yeah.
There's sort of the whole,
Well, yeah, we've been just doing Band-Aids, just
yeah, I know.
because we kind of keep pushing the pool thing.
The thing to note with those numbers too, that doesn't include necessarily some of the other staff time from our wastewater treatment plant, staff time going into that. And then even the school district has budget numbers from, community ed's programming that doesn't necessarily include all their ancillary staff or registration and all that. So we'll do our best to gather all that. Because if you looked at the bottom line, generally on revenue versus expense from the school's side of the pool, including our contribution through our expired joint powers agreement, it pretty well is close to breaking even every year, but it doesn't include all the costs, and it certainly doesn't include the city costs. So we'll try to give you a good breakdown of that.
Yeah.
Mike, do you know if they were just interested in dollars amount, or were they looking at employee hours? In other words, are they going to do the maintenance, or are they looking for us to do some of the maintenance or repair?
The general discussion Ken and I had with the school, and the same would be true if it was our facility, that if it's going to be the school's facility, that there should be some way that we have involvement and participation in seeing what's going on, but the employees, the maintenance, and that would be done by the school, and we would share in it from a fiscal relationship, so
Okay.
that you don't have dual taskmasters in that process. And since it's their property, their building, and they're going to coordinate the use of their maintenance or custodial staff and those kinds of things, and other employment issues, that it would generally be my guess from our discussions is that would all be school-related, but we would share financially in that picture.
Glenn, with your involvement in some of the repairs, were city employees able to do some of those, or did you have to get outside resources to fix?
So far, city employees have done the repairs we've done at the pool.
Would it be possible then to give them a proposal that city employees could do some of the repair or maintenance if need be? That might cut down their expenses, and we could help them out that way? Just looking at kinds of ways that, without just dollar amounts, that we can help benefit them without us maybe having to put in quite as much money.
But I don't think, a lot of the repairs, obviously a new pool, you shouldn't have a lot of repairs, but, with an indoor pool, and, there's expertise that, the stuff that you're going to have to hire out to do.
Well, that's why I asked Glenn about the repairs.
Right, but I mean, the repairs they're talking about, like they dug up around the cement and they fixed
Right.
the leak,
Right.
those type of things. That's the repairs that Glenn's doing. They're not really doing,
Are you doing anything to the equipment? That's what I guess I should have
No,
asked.
at
Oh,
this point, we
okay.
have not done anything to the equipment besides probably changing out a motor or something like that, or a chemical pump.
Built case.
So no, nothing to the equipment at this point. No.
You're also going to have a different level of modernization of that filtration
Yeah,
system and
granted.
operation that would be different than what we have as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's probably going to be a whole different level of training with this, with this facility than there is what we have in ours. And that's not saying ours doesn't take some know-how running a pool, but this will probably be a lot more advanced, that you just have to know.
So Ken, when you consolidate all these costs, are you going to be able to get some kind of estimate of Glenn Sky's time? and-
Yeah, we actually did that with the visioning booklet we
Right.
had, so, yeah.
Okay, yeah, just consolidate, that'd be great. So let's just plan to put it on the agenda in January, the first one, so that we can kind of start the discussions, and hopefully we can make a decision by the 20th. that,
Would it be helpful to have Tim DeBerner come, and so in case he might have answers for questions?
I think maybe, to my point, maybe at the meeting on the 20th, I think let us get the facts ready and then say, okay, this is kind of what we're looking at, because they're going to have to give us some data too, what they think, they're going to have to do some projections and saying, it's going to cost $120,000 or $200,000 a year to run it, that cost sharing, so we're going to need that from them. I agree that maybe the second meeting, the 20th, when we actually make a decision, if we need to have Tim there.
I was kind of thinking at the first one that we're going to have, because, things we might not be able to answer question, and then he'd have the answer.
Well, that's fine.
I don't know.
That's fine.
So I was kind of wondering, like, on the, so say we went 50/50, okay, on the operational cost, whatever that costs to operate it with for electricity and whatever, they need chemicals and whatever, but let's say a motor goes out and 5 years after and it's not under warranty anymore or something, then do we share on that too, 50/50? Is that the kind of thing you're thinking?
Until we're able to go into, they indicated that they have gotten some agreements between cities and other school districts when we met on that Wednesday. They didn't really have anything for us to take a look at, but that certainly would be, before we can come back and give you some indication, is that we would want to take a look at is what would be the makeup of what goes into that operating budget, both from personnel, operation, capital replacement, that the construction and debt repayment, as we understand it, would be the responsibility of the school, whether they would look for capital replacement in that or whether that would be in the rest of the school budget as everything else is. We need to get clarified as we try to pursue developing a greater understanding of what would all be included or entailed in that partnership.
So we'd have by our next meeting, we'd probably have those reports from the other schools.
Well, we will
Like kinda
certainly
what
try to
they do,
work, we will certainly
contracts.
try to work with the school to see what he's referencing and what would go into this. And so we'll do the best we can to try to get some of that information to give you a general idea of what does this truly mean, or what's the outline of what does this mean, and hopefully provide that at the 6th meeting.
Because Glenn, when we had that, replace that boiler and all that stuff, we bore that cost, correct?
We did, yes. Yep.
The facility costs are ours on the pool arrangement with
Correct.
the school district.
Right. Yes. Okay.
But that's fairly generally customary, and in many of the collaborations that I've seen between cities and schools, is that it's up to each owner entity to be responsible for the maintenance and repair and upkeep of that facility. How you develop a cost sharing as to what you're willing to cover from an operating standpoint and what goes into that is certainly something that we can fine-tune fairly easily. I think once we've had a chance to sit down and talk with the school and really see what they're intending to include in that area. But in many cases, each entity controls that because it's part of your fixed asset system and your budgeting system, and you would typically take care of it. And then how you let the other party use that or what they pay to be able to use that is the piece that we would need to work out.
Maybe see if either Tim or Sandy
Okay.
could come to the next meeting. Maybe Sandy Lynn would probably be the better person if we're talking cost and things like that.
Or somebody, just so that we aren't sitting here going over on this short timeline and then, oh, we wish we had that information, and then we don't meet for 2 weeks,
Oh, that's good. So see if either one of those can be available, and we can put them on first or last, whatever works best for their timing. If they would like to do it first thing, and we can get it done. So, okay, well, good. Next on the agenda, consent agenda. Any questions or changes to the consent agenda?
Mayor, there's one add to the claims for payment. I believe Mary Jo handed out tonight.
Yes.
There's one ad at the bottom, and that's for the second part of the grant that we have with the State Department of Employment and Economic Development through the Business Development Public Improvement portion of the program, where we got a $313,005 grant from the state of Minnesota. That was to deal with the storm sewer relocation for those that have been around since we did that project, where it went under the building. It got rerouted along the west side, the north side, and back around the northeast side through the ditch.
Yes.
That was
Okay.
basically an infrastructure
So
grant.
basically, we're getting reimbursed for this from the state.
Yeah, this will be the piece that Chart is eligible, that the grant will get, the project costs were in excess of $600,000. We're eligible for up to a 50% reimbursement, not to exceed $313,000 and I think $5.
Okay.
Of the amount that would go to Chart, it's a little over $302,000. The balance of that, I think about $9,000 and $10,000 was to SEH to perform our engineering inspection of that so that we could certify to the state that it was constructed in accordance with plans and specs. You accepted it earlier this fall, and so we're expecting that grant reimbursement to be coming this week, and so we needed to make sure that that got added so that we could pay them that bill.
So now is Chart reimbursed for everything that they're supposed to be? I mean, the deed money and everything, or are we still
Yes,
waiting? Better-
When this one comes through, that will be the last piece.
Okay.
We'll do an update at the end of the year for reporting purposes to deed and the school and the county and ourselves as far as where they're at employment-wise. Depending upon where those numbers are at, we may have to take a look at a request for an extension, but I won't know that until I see the numbers at the end of the year from them.
Okay. Any other questions in the,
Yeah, I have one.
okay?
It's on the invoice, Mike. Page 1. Legal matters. Legal bill for Jillian Street. How much other expenses has the city had?
I'm going to defer to Ken. Ken's handled all of that. I've not been involved with that.
That's actually the total so far, and
That is the
this
total?
also includes some of the costs for the fence issue for the two residents south. I'm actually going to comment on that
Okay,
in miscellaneous, but yeah, this is,
okay.
they're aware there's been some additional costs here. We had estimated $3,000 initially, and we're trying to hold the line as best we can here. But not all of that is billable to that association, so I do want to point that out.
Okay. Anything else?
I have one.
Yep.
On the general fund income statement, I know it's through the end of November, but we still have property taxes coming in?
Yes, they come in December, November,
Oh,
December.
they all come December, okay.
No, they come,
November-
some come in November and some come December. Yeah.
And then
paid
our
We had the
L-
same issue in the EDA deal.
Same thing on the intergovernmental, is we won't get the balance of our LGA payment until December here.
All right, thanks.
Any other questions? No, I guess I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second,
Second by Pat Scripture. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay. Now that fun section of miscellaneous. Bruce,
I'll just
not
give,
quiet today, come on.
I'll give you a quick update on Thursday nights. We had that power outage that affected parts of New Prague, not all of it. It kind of depended on what sections you lived in. Anytime you have a whole city go down, you always got a lot of questions coming in. But New Prague was very fortunate. Both us and Minnesota Valley were in areas that could be rerouted fairly quick. And we, in the core part of New Prague, we did start generation, and we had generation online in about 20 minutes. So that was beneficial. We ran for about an hour to help out, Excel Energy with voltage support. There were some communities around that had outages of 3 and 4 hours, so it was a little bit longer night for some of the communities that weren't able to be rerouted as far as their transmission network goes, or didn't have generation. So I was pretty proud of staff. They beat me there and had things going before I even got there, so they did a good job. So it went real well.
There's something that went in Carver County?
Yeah, in a Carver, there's some transmission network issues in Carver area, and Excel's pretty quiet about what actually happens, so in regards to outages, but anyhow, that was what the deal was.
Okay. Anything else?
kind of weird how it went out. It's kind
It's kind of spooky when you see a whole town that's black when you come into town, but that's kind of what happened. And I think you probably might see a little more of that as, they're really transitioning into a lot of different parameters as far as our transmission network in our area goes with the new CapEx lines. And so they're having different abilities to switch grids and that type of thing. So they're in some transition periods there. So there's a lot of changes going on in the transmission networks right now. So.
Yeah, thank you. Glenn?
Just wanted to update you. Last Wednesday, we had a baseball committee meeting, which is going very well. We have good attendance. Brian Jurdy from INS Engineering Group, who is a resident of New Prague, is offering quite a bit of services for free at this point. So we had, again, discussion on Wednesday night about what are some of the plans, what are the things we need to start looking at as far as phasing into needing to change, needing to upgrade, things like that. So the next meeting we have, INS is going to come back with more of a concept plan and actually probably even I'll say a blueprint showing the total footage or the total outlay of the property and what can fit where, how it would fit, what might look good, what's going to work. So nothing more than just an update of what the baseball committee, which is, like I said, very well attended. A lot of good input. So
when they come back with that, are they going to have some cost estimate on that? Or
Yes.
is that the next phase? Or
Well, no, hopefully the next meeting will also have some cost estimates on that and be able to kind of decide on what needs to be done and also because of the costs, look at things that way also.
then you'll start prioritizing?
Yes, exactly.
What can be done in next year, the year after, and things like
Right.
that.
Yep, our goal is to be done 2017, nothing more on 2018 than a
Getting
little
the
touch
field
up
in-
here and,
Getting the field in shape.
exactly. The field's going to be in shape before then, it's just going to be minor touch-ups.
Okay, good. Well, good. Thank the committee for me when you.
I will.
Okay, Ken?
All right, quick update on the Jillian Street matter. We had actually been working quite diligently to get that on the last city council agenda. Ultimately, the title company that we have a title policy that would be issued on the outlot, which is the public road that we would obtain in this whole process that we would take over and maintain. The title company determined that they actually needed mortgage company consent from the 12 property owners, if there's a mortgage on there, to sign off on the deed of the outlot right-of-way. Good chunk of them do have mortgages on there. So last week, the owner and encumbrance reports were ordered, which is required by the title company to prove who the mortgage companies are, if there's a mortgage, if there's not. And then essentially, they have 30 days to respond, and if they would, consent to signing off on the deeding of the property to the city for that right-of-way. So we're generally speaking out into mid-January for that time frame. The other thing the county required along with this process is, and I don't want to get into the whole background on it, but this townhome development is a common interest community plat, which isn't the plat that the planning commission or council approves, but rather that defines the owners as a group that own their lots individually and then surrounding common owned property, including this roadway. Before the deed can be filed, the CAC plat has to be amended to show that they no longer own the right-of-way. So that document had to be updated by the association. That actually did get done and reviewed by the county at about a $1,000 cost, completely out of the hands of the city, but it was an extra expense for the association to handle. That was not the case for Village Street because Village Street was not a CIC plat. So that's kind of an added extra expense. We weren't quite sure how the county was going to handle it, and they ultimately said, yeah, we really do need that before that deed can come in. So anyway, looking at earliest this could come back is probably that second meeting in January, but the issue that then comes into play is all these property owners, the 12 property owners in the Jillian Street development, are partial owners in that outlot, and the county considers this a lot split. When you split property, it requires taxes to be paid in full for the year for everybody, all 12 owners. So I don't know from the association at this point. They said that'd be a pretty tough sell for everybody to pay their full taxes, let's say even before the first half is due. So I don't know if they'll end up waiting till October that we get this back in your hands or not. But that's kind of the delay that we have going on right now. They may get it worked out, and maybe after the first half is paid, they can get that taken care of sooner. Because ideally, we would like to take care of getting the seal coating done, which they already paid us for, and then the repair and some minor storm sewer issues repaired as well. Obviously, in the summer, if it waits till October, we just got to wait till 2016 to get that done. So.
What about the fences? Were they
Yeah.
on the other property? They were,
So the fence owners are on the property. That's kind of another issue, and Scott and I had talked previously that it's related, but not necessarily would hold up the process of the dedication. I've talked to the owners at length about the situation. They are not happy at all that they think that this is all in favor of the association, when in effect they petitioned for it, and the fences just happen to be put up on property they don't own. So it's kind of argue that they have much negotiation there. But they have the agreement in their hands. It's called a limited use agreement that would allow the fence to stay. Basically, they hold the liability for that should anything happen to it. At this point, it's up to them to determine if they want to enter in that or not. If they don't, we could order the fence taken down as it would be on city property at that point. So
We have a time limit on the,
for them to respond,
yeah.
I've told them we'll be bringing this back probably at the end of January. So yeah, they got to make up their mind fairly soon here. I think ultimately paying a couple $100 in legal fees for drafting the agreement is probably cheaper than moving a fence, but that's my explanation to them so far. But they're not happy. I understand they're not happy about it. I wouldn't be happy about it either, but it really came down to that they built it on property they don't own. So
they didn't have it surveyed, in other words.
didn't have it surveyed. So yeah, it's a tough situation.
Okay.
That's where we're at.
Okay, anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Pat?
Oh, the gas station tanks that were taken out, did they have any leaking in the ground then, or?
All the testing was done. I did get a final report from MPCA. There was no further action required at this point.
Oh, so they were good.
If the site is,
Okay.
I do want to note that that doesn't mean that there is no contamination there. If redevelopment is done on the site, meaning a new building, they do have to go back in there and probably take out a bunch of soils. But at this point, they're not proposing to do any redevelopment of a new building or anything, no new footings and no disturbing that. So basically what they have there is fine. It's not a concern for groundwater or any other property. So it's not completely clean. It just isn't, there's no further action required. So,
Okay.
We still have the testing equipment there that, isn't it?
yeah, for the monitoring wells and things are still there.
But we don't have to.
They don't have to be there anymore, but it's still there.
Okay. Okay,
That's it.
David? Sean?
Nope.
Mike?
No.
Scott, you got anything?
No, nothing to add to Ken. He covered that very well. It's been
Okay.
a up and down issue with that, which was not unexpected. It wasn't the same as the previous one we did, but many years less than the other city I cited, and I've explained to Ken what went on. So it's not unexpected.
Okay, good. Mary Jo? Jim?
Nothing, just before the end of the year, I'd like to, the carpet replaced.
Okay. Patrick? Merry Christmas. Yes. Okay, I don't have anything, but the final thing on the agenda, as we all know, it's Sean's final council meeting, and in recognition, I want to give Sean a key to the city. Obviously, it's an outdated one, so that he can't use it. But besides that, Sean and I kind of ran at our first run at this thing at the same time. We're not only friends, but we're neighbors. When Sean got elected, I know Sean pretty well. He sometimes overextends himself. The guy cannot say no. So I had kind of some trepidation going in there to see how Sean was, and Sean surprised me. Sean went well above the call of duty. He was very diligent at coming to meetings, coming to the boards, and coming to commissions, and he has my ultimate respect. And I hope in 2 years, he would reconsider running for council again, or maybe even mayor. So some of us can retire, but Sean, personally, and on behalf of the city of New Prague, I really appreciate the work you've done for the city. I think Dirk said it kind of eloquently at the EDA meeting when he said, Sean, when you ask a question, it always seems to be the correct question. So that just shows that how Sean was really informed on the things that he was dealing with, and we're going to miss you, but you can always watch us at 2 in the morning or whatever. But again, we appreciate it, Sean, and wish you well. And you're always welcome to come back. And there is an opening on the park board that you could apply for if you're so inclined. But I'm not going to. So.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate that. I've enjoyed my 4 years here. I think we've done a lot of good things. I think we left the city it's hard to say because things were always going well with this town, but I think we even left it in a little bit better shape. We did a lot of nice things. I'm going to miss some of the pending things that I wanted to be part of, but that's how it happens. So maybe you'll see me back in a couple of years. Who knows? But I appreciate all the city employees. I think they do a wonderful job. I've got to know many, many of them. Just think the world of them, and the citizens of New Prague are lucky to have them on our side. And to the rest of the council, Pat, Dave, Mark's not here tonight, but I think the world of you guys too. We don't always agree. Sometimes it got a little contentious. We all have our own opinions, but at the end of the day, we all could walk out into the hallway and still be friends and really know that we had the city of New Prague's best interests in mind. So I appreciate the key to the city, and like I said, if there's anything I can do to help out, I'm more than happy to help out. But thank you very much. So appreciate it.
Patrick, you have your, okay, good.
Oh, you don't need a picture. Boy, nice plaque. That set the city back a few bucks. Nice and heavy. Thank you very much.
Ken, I told you to get the cheaper one.
If there's nothing else, I guess I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Or do we have to?
Or adjourn this one.
Let
excuse me.
Sean make the motion to adjourn.
Yeah, Sean, you make the motion to final adjournment.
All right, I make a motion that we adjourn the regular city council meeting.
Okay.
Second.
Second by Dave Brusick. All in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye. Any opposition? We're adjourned. Now, do we need to make a motion to go into closed session? Scott, or?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, do that, and then we'll